Hey people, how you doing? Welcome to the Sports Therapy Association podcast, 8 o'clock. We do film it live, just in case you're listening to the podcast. It is live every Tuesday, 8 o'clock on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. So if you do like what you hear and you think, I want to be there live, I want to ask the guests live questions and make them squirm a little bit, and then you're welcome to do that. Just head along to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel, 8 o'clock. I'm just smiling. You might notice if you listen to my voice, I just love the comments. People are already in the lounge waiting for us. Nikki Mansfield is here, and she's just said, "Evening all, I'm ready for some foot loving." I love you, Nikki, so much. There we are. You are going to Therapy Expo, are you, Nikki? I think so. I so hope you are. I see what you did there, Becky. Anyway, so yeah, the people are joining our lounge, and it's a great place to come. I can't help but recommend, if you are a soft tissue therapist, you don't have to be a member of the STA. Just come along, and you'll be mixing with other soft tissue therapists. It's a lovely way to maybe hear what the STA is about in case you are looking for a professional association you can trust. Then come along. Regional reps normally drop in if you've got any questions. Sometimes we have the presence of the founder of the Sports Therapy Association, Gary Benson. He's in the house sometimes. It's a great chance to catch Gary. And you get a chance. Anything you do say, then I can put it up on the screen and you can see maybe your logo. It's pretty good networking, to tell you the truth, if you want to just get your name and that out there and meet some people. We changed the word network, haven't we, now? I think Anna Maria Mazzieri changed the word networking to supporting. It's just a bit of a nicer two-way thing, isn't it? Let's go somewhere to support each other rather than just networking. So anyway, who else is in the house? Let's have a little hi to people. Glenn Murphy's here. Shuffle tap hop, folks. No idea what he's talking about. Hey, Glenn. Nice to see you. Becky Carroll's here. Happy Tuesday all. Oh, no. Happy Tuesday all. Right, so the puns have started already. Thank you, Becky. Alistair Cunningham's here. Good evening, you lovely lot. Are you getting the vibe? Can you feel the love here? It's so nice to see. It makes me so happy. Sarah Jones is here. Evening with a little wave of the hand. And people are coming in. So yeah, it's a great shout. I would come along if you do. 8 o'clock. I don't think there's anything better on Netflix or anything at the moment, but you can watch when you want anyway. So you've got no excuses. Right, so thanks people for joining us live, always appreciated. We are at episode 122. It's 122 weeks of CPD. If you're looking for help or CPD, which is free, then here we are. There's 121 hours waiting for you on any popular podcast app or on the YouTube channel if you want to watch the video, or you can go to the website thesta.co.uk and you can see all the show notes and everything there for 121 fantastic guests who are spreading the word. Last week, and we had the pleasure of talking to one of the speakers who will be joining us in the STA Theatre at Therapy Expo this year. And that was Sonia Fierro, which was a lovely episode, especially if you're a little bit broody. If, for example, I know you're a dad of a 7 and 4 year or 5 year old and thinking, oh, I'd love another little one which doesn't run around or call me names, then it's a great episode to watch because Sonia joined us with her recently born baby, 6 months old, I think now, because obviously, as she said, organize a podcast, hope the baby goes to sleep. No, of course she doesn't go to sleep. She's up in her arms. So it's a great episode, and it's all about that. Basically, it's all about how Sonia trained with regards to CrossFit and lifting of weights pre-pregnancy and post-pregnancy, and it's a real eye-opener. There's a massive disclaimer on it that what she did isn't what everybody can do, because Sonia's got a wealth of experience of both exercising herself. She's got national records of deadlifting and all sorts of things and powerlifting, and also worked with a lot of GB teams. But the stuff she says is really interesting in just all going down the line of listen to your body, work with a professional, but you might be surprised that you don't necessarily have to go by what the standard black and white recommendations are, especially when they're things like don't do any bodyweight exercises until 6 weeks in. You've got our Sonia there doing lunges with baby in a hammock and a dumbbell in her hand at kind of like week 1 or something. So yeah, worth checking out. Really good episode. And I'm really excited to say is what we're doing now until Therapy Expo is our speakers on the show now will be live at the STA Theatre at Therapy Expo on Wednesday, 23rd and 24th of November. Sonia is going to be with us on the Wednesday at 9:15. She's joining the Women in Sports Therapy roundtable discussion, which is going to be amazing. So you can, if you like what you hear from Sonia, then come along to Therapy Expo if you're near Birmingham in November, and you can see it in the flesh. Talking of in the flesh, we've got another speaker who's going to be joining us tonight, who's going to be at Therapy Expo as well. It's Liz Bayley, who is waiting patiently down in the lobby below. People who are regular listeners to the podcast will know Liz because tonight is actually a record-breaking 4th appearance. I don't think anyone else has done it. It's incredible. There must be a reason for that. she's always available. She's always says yes. I don't know what it is, but no, she's heavily in demand, and we're going to talk about her rise to extreme success in terms of being called to do things shortly. As always, if you've got any questions for Liz, you're going to be talking about the dancer's foot. Then fire away. I've given Liz permission. If she sees something interesting going on in the chat, a question fired away, then she can just cut in and say, oh, Becky's got a good question, or Sarah's got a good question. So really do use this opportunity to challenge Liz, ask her questions, ask her about, I don't know, bent knee calf raises or something, anything which comes into your mind, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer. Right, that's it. I think that's out of the way. I've got nothing else to say, so I shall now bring up the one and only Liz Bay with a Y, Bayley. Hello, Liz Bayley.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks
you
for
very
joining
much.
us.
I wasn't sure if you would say Liz Bayley with a Y, but you did.
Bay with a Y, because it still happens. People should know
happens.
it still happens. If you do communicate with Liz.
When I search myself on YouTube, Liz Bayley is spelt wrong. People keep searching for me with an I, not a Y.
You know what? I know at this stage in your illustrious career, it's probably a nice thing because it halves your traffic down. But once upon a time, it must have been quite infuriating because people are trying to find you and doing a BAI. But now I think you could do with halving your demand, couldn't you? You're busy person.
Yeah, I'm so busy that I kind of don't know what to do. Like I have 2 jobs now that I basically do full time between the 2 of them. And then I see loads of patients privately, either at my house or at their houses or online. And people keep asking me to do talks and presentations, and then go to a dance division, screen a load of dances. And I'm like, okay, I can do that on my day off, and I can do that on my day off. So I don't have days off anymore. I just fill them up with work. So I'm going to be burnt out in about another 18 months, I think. 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, so that's me feeling pretty guilty and put in my place. People keep asking you to, I know, but thanks for saying yes. We'll try and make it quick. I promise you, you'll be out by 9 o'clock.
No, I thought it'd be nice to do a 4th one, like you said.
Yeah, no, it's great. I appreciate it. And you're a mum as well, of course. You know, it's not like you're just going out and not got any other commitments. I love following you on various social media because, yeah, it shows you're a person. And how old is yours now?
My little boy is 4.
There you go.
So, yeah, he's out of the difficult, that crazy baby stage, but it's still a lot of work. You don't get much time to yourself.
Oh, no, without a doubt. Exactly. There's 3 other podcasts for people to listen to if you want to see details of Liz's journey to where she is today. But just briefly, I mean, the one thing I must put in here, because I think it's really good what you did. You're sharing your knowledge and your everything. You put up a wonderful thing on Twitter here. You can't see this if you listen to the podcast, but you did a tweet the other day which said 19 links to various blogs, talks, podcasts, and articles I've written and recorded over the past few years. Finally managed to get them all in one place. So if you go to at Liz Bayley Physio, and please spell it LizBayley Physio, then you'll see a pinned tweet, which I think is really considerate, where people can have a link to all of the great information you've put out there. 19 of them, which is great because it's tricky, isn't it? We produce so much stuff these days and then it tends to get lost. So good on you, Liz. Well done on doing that.
It's more than that now. So actually that link was from July. It's 32 links now.
There you go.
I counted it the other day and I was like, oh my God, there's 32. It's a link tree thing. So it just everything, it's easier for me to find it as well. But there's a few extra podcasts, there's a few extra things. I wrote something for the British Medical Journal on cardio training for dancers, and I did something for the CSP about dance, and then a couple of other podcasts. Something that was international. I did a podcast in America.
Oh wow! So congratulations.
Exciting. So they're all on there. It's more than 19. It's 32 now. I think if I
there you go.
Did it last time.
Amazing. Are they all for people who work with dancers, or would you say it stretches further than that?
No, it's for anyone who works with sports people. Definitely, there's loads of crossover. Like I did a blog for Physio Network about plyometric training for jumping athletes, but that would be basketball players, it would be netballers, it would be hurdlers, it would be any kind of sport where which is why I called it for jumping athletes, not for dancers. So there's a case study that at the end that I use as a dancer, but everything else can be completely applied to any kind of sports. And my talk for Therapy Live that I did was about it was safe return to dance, but actually apart from the finite details at the end and in between a few places for dancers, everything else was for sports people, because dancers are athletes, so you treat them the same as you do any kind of athletes. There's the obvious, really specific stuff in certain places, which is really important to get right with dancers, but a lot of it is a huge crossover.
Fantastic. That's useful for people to know, because you generate a name for yourself as, oh, Liz Bayley, or yeah, ex-professional dancer, and she's working on Lion King and stuff. And yeah, I don't work with dancers, so I'm not going to bother looking at stuff. But like you say, there is a massive crossover when you think about it and break it down. There's a lot of movements that are the same. And the people are really passionate about doing a sport, which is like probably the most important thing to ask people about. So wicked. Let people know what you're doing at the moment in terms of working with dancers. For people who don't know, where are you working at the moment?
So for coming on about 18 months now, I've been the head physio on the Lion King, which is in London, Covent Garden. So I work with a company called West End Osteopathy, and that's owned by a guy called Fabi. He sort of services all the different theatres in London, but he wanted to have a physio full time on the Lion King. So I actually share the job now with somebody else, because I didn't want to do just that full time. I wanted to kind of be able to do some other things, and full time in a theatre as a physio is quite a hard slog. It's a lot of hours, and it's very it's a really hard one. So it's nice to share the job with somebody. But I'm the head physio for the Lion King now, so I'm there for 3 days a week, and I'm at Trinity Laban, which is a music and dance conservatoire in Greenwich and Deptford. So it's a merging of Trinity Music College and Laban Dance College. That was back in 2005, I think. So it's now known as Trinity Laban, but it's they train adults for degrees, masters, bachelors, masters of fine arts, that kind of thing, and they are sort of world leaders in dance science. So we have fantastic facilities. They've got a dance science lab, which my physio room is next door to. We've got a fantastic conditioning studio. There's strength and conditioning coaches that work there, and sports physiologists, and all kinds of people that I sort of brush shoulders with all the time. And I'm one of the physios. There's 3 of us. And I look after the students that are there, and also anyone that lives in the local vicinity, or anyone who wants to come there. It's just a working, injury clinic. So anyone can come and see me there. So if ever you do want to come and see me, that's a good place to book in with me at Trinity Laban. So if you go on Google and just put in Trinity Laban Health, that's the clinic part. And you can book online to come and see me, and lots of locals come and see me, but lots of performers, obviously, because it's known for performance physio. And then on top of that, like I said, I see patients at my house, I see patients at their houses. I do lots of online consultations, quite a lot of teaching, more and more podcasts and presentations. So
how did you fit this all in?
I don't.
Are you thinking now one's got to go? Are you thinking I've got to take something out of the equation? Is that where you are?
Yeah. My husband said that to me.
Your husband? Oh, I thought you were going to say my husband.
Yeah. No, he's really supportive. It's the only way that I can do it. But it's more that I realised on all my days off recently, I had been working towards this new foot and ankle course that I've just done over the weekend. And that took between 4 to 6 months. So any spare time I had, I was doing that. So I kind of hadn't had a day off for like 6 months. Like literally, it's kind of mad, and it's probably not sustainable, but it's hard when the ball gets rolling, and especially when it's something that you love so much. I love dance, I love physio, and I talk about it and think about it all the time. So to have that as your job is a real dream, isn't it? But I've got to be careful not to overdo it. I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's good that you recognize that. And there's loads more, isn't there? I mean, ex-professional dancer, Moulin Rouge, and you were a sports therapist originally, which is really interesting as well for people listening to this. In which case, I think I've got written down here, you were working as a sports therapist in the West End on lots of shows which people will know, like Wicked, Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, Shrek, Matilda, Jersey Boys. What made you go from sports therapist to physiotherapist, and how much did it change your ability to work with dancers?
Well, so I did a sports therapy diploma. So it took me about a year or so, and it got me straight into where I wanted to be. It was perfect. I went straight into the West End, and I worked with all the principals of the West End. I would see them twice weekly for like full body massages and things. But I did find that I was using the hands-on stuff more than anything else that I had been taught. So I always kind of saw myself more as a sports massage therapist than a true sports. I think the skills that sports therapists have, I don't think that was really being used. I was really being used as a sports massage therapist, which was fine, but as anyone who does it, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will know, it's really exhausting. You know, I would do, say, 3 people in a row and then have a break and then do another 3. 6 hours of full body massage, which is, you know, expected to be at a really decent caliber. You couldn't just sort of half-arse it, and I never would anyway, but I would be really tired by the end of all of that. And I thought, oh, this is physically tricky. And I'd gotten out of dancing because it was so physical, but actually sports massage therapy is incredibly physical. But also on that, I kind of would start to get intrigued by the injuries I'd see, and obviously I wasn't qualified to diagnose things, and I would have to hand over to physios in the company that I worked with for more complex management and for treatment plans. And I just thought, I want to do that because I thought that I could, and it just wasn't, just that part of it wasn't quite enough. I just wanted the extra qualification. I wanted the training. I wanted to be able to confidently say what something was, rather than say, well, I think it's patellofemoral pain, or I think it's plantar fasciitis, but I was never trained to do that. But you know, you get familiar with things. So I just wanted more training so that I would be more confident when I treated injuries, and also the HCPC registration, because actually both jobs I've got now, I couldn't have as a sports therapist. You have to be HCPC registered.
Even if you've done a degree in sports therapy?
Yeah, but you're still not HCPC registered.
Yeah,
right?
it's a big problem point, isn't it?
Problem. Yeah,
still in the industry, it's there.
Yeah, so I needed that for Lion King, and I needed it for Trinity Laban, and I need it for other jobs that I do, you know, when I screen at colleges and things like that. So that was why.
But how much of the physiotherapy, because obviously when you're doing physiotherapy, there's a lot of stuff I imagine you had to learn and wards you had to work on, which now you're not using at all.
Physio, oh God, yeah, absolutely. All the respiratory stuff, all the really acute medical stuff, all the stuff with elderly people. You know, I mean, I could easily diagnose someone with knee OA, but I don't tend to see those patients. But the thing is what it does though is it makes you a much more rounded practitioner. So I've got that medical background now, so I understand about multi-systems analysis and comorbidities, and that makes me just I'm able to take that forward even with people in sports, because you still need those things when you're diagnosing, like with things like more systemic issues, like when you've got bone stresses or those kinds of things. Like you need all that extra information and understanding of the medical part of it a little bit more, I think. So it makes you a more rounded practitioner for sure. I did it all as a student, but I never did it as a qualified physio. I went straight into sports. MSK, straight into MSK.
But then you're a natural student, aren't you? You love studying. I mean, on top of all of this, you've got a degree in psychology as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that was my first degree.
So I think that's the answer to the question. Give me more books. I need more books.
I won't ever do another degree, but I was thinking about doing the dance science module at Queen Mary. I don't need it. Like
of course you were. You've got a lunchtime on Tuesdays. You could put a little something in there.
I'd love to kind of just do that one module, just to sort of have it. It would be sort of be a name under my belt kind of thing. I hope I would know a lot of the stuff and it wouldn't be brand new to me, because if it was, I think I'm probably in the wrong industry. I'd quite happily do another module here or there potentially. Yeah,
that's fascinating. It's really cool, because you're one of these people who shows that if you're passionate about something and you want it and you want to work in the big shows and you just set your sights really high, you can achieve. I mean, it sounds a bit like a cliche, but you can really achieve anything. I mean, you're at a height now and a level where you've got there because of working and making choices and sacrifices. So you're quite inspirational, I think, for anybody out there who is starting as a sports massage therapist and starting to think, oh, I want something a bit different than this. I want to work more with this. I want to be able to diagnose. Not everyone needs that. And if people don't want that, then it's a wrong route to go down. But it just shows that if you do want to reach the dizzy heights of the Lion King and the Lyceum, and was it 3 nights a week?
I do it three nights a week now. I used to do it 4 or 5, but
and it's attainable. It's attainable. Very exciting. So you mentioned also you've been away, haven't you, this weekend? Was that the first time? Was that the opening of your new course, which seems to be causing wonderful ripples on Twitter?
Yes. So I was going to say, like, you don't really need to study a master's degree to learn. All you have to do is say that you'll teach a course in 4 to 6 months, and then the amount of learning I had to do for that, I may as well have done a master's module. It's been insane. You know, it's all self-directed, so you have to be really good at knowing how to look up papers, how to analyze them, how to put cases together. So it's incredibly challenging, but I use my contacts constantly. Like I said on Twitter recently, I must have messaged between 10 and 15 people, all of them very, very well known on Twitter, experts in their field, just to ask for help on various different bits and pieces. And they all helped me out with things, which made my learning easier. Like they saved me days of reading because they just answered a quick question, for example. So networking and using those contacts is so useful. But yeah, so me and Lizzie Marlow.
I'm going to bring up some pictures, but you can keep talking. I'm just going to put it out for people who join us live. This is one of the advantages people have actually come to YouTube to watch it live or watching the video afterwards, because you'll be able to see screenshots of what Liz is talking about now. But yeah, carry on, Liz. I'm just going to put some images up as you're talking.
Yeah, so Lizzie Marlow is she's an extended scope practitioner in the NHS and also does other various jobs and things. But she's a very experienced, brilliant clinician. And she has done lots of teaching in the past, and then I had put out some things on Twitter, and then we kind of got in touch and said, because she does she's a lower limb physio first and foremost. I think she does spinal as well, but more lower limb is her interest. And she wanted to do a foot and ankle course. And then she kind of got in touch with me via a colleague that we both knew and just said, would you be interested in teaching with me? Because I think she had taught by herself once, and it's quite a big job to teach a whole 2-day course all by yourself. And I think she liked the idea of bringing me in because I had experience that was very different from hers. So she's being an ESP, she's kind of second opinions, very diagnostic and less about the rehab. Whereas I see acute sports injuries, it's all about the rehab for me, obviously diagnostic as well, but in a different way. She's very NHS, I'm very private. So we kind of complement each other and we cover all areas of physio between us. So it was a March that we first met to talk about it. So this is when I say I haven't had a day off since March, because ever since that meeting, any spare time I've had has been working on the course. And it's just been a real labour of love. Like it was incredibly busy. It was very, very full as well. I think everyone that went on the course said how fast paced it was and how much information there was. We could easily have done it over 2 days, but we did it in one, which means you skim over some things and some things were a little bit more sped up, but you certainly get a lot into it. And I think the people left thinking, wow, there's a lot about the foot and ankle that we didn't know or hadn't even considered. So that was kind of the first job that we did. And funnily enough, we were waiting. We kept saying, well, when are we going to do our first one? And we wouldn't commit. And then someone approached me because of my work on Twitter and said that my name had come up when they were talking about foot and ankle training, because I talk about the foot and ankle a lot. And would I want to do a course for them? So I said to Lizzie, right, we've got a date. Let's put the date in the diary, work towards it. So, and we were saying on the train on the way up, we could have taken another 5 months to get that course together. You know how you can always do it better. There's always more you can read. There's always, and we said, we're so lucky, we're so glad we put that date in the diary and said, right, let's do it on the 15th of October, because we'd have still been writing and faffing around for 3 months, 3, 4, 6 months. It was ridiculous. So it made us get it done. So it was a bit of an experiment. Like I always knew it would be good. We're both quite studious, dedicated, hardworking. So there was no way it wasn't going to work, or sort of that we wouldn't manage to pull it off. But I wasn't sure how it was going to go as far as the flow was and how we were teaching together. We'd never taught together. We just talked about it. But I have to say, I think we are the best duo. It just was brilliant. We teach in a very complementary style. We both have a very similar sense of humour, which is amazing. We're both left-handed. We found out we're both called Liz. So it's perfect.
I love this image you put up here. Oh no, actually it was the other Lizzie Marlow put it out, wasn't it? It was a lovely it's again, if it's the podcast you can't see it, but it was a tweet I think that Lizzie Marlow put out originally. Some lovely artwork with 1 day, 2 Lizzies, lots of feet and endless fun, and pictures of both of them and 2 curtains. It's marvelous, really nice. And I think it encapsulates what, as far as the feedback I've had from people going on the course, is yes, it's a course, it's learning stuff, but it's just load of fun and learn through play, through practice, through actually doing things. And it looks like from all the photos that I've seen, you had great fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And I think something that I brought to it, I suppose, is because I used to be a performer, is that I do get really excitable about things. I know you say this about me as well, but that was some of the feedback, was that they were like, it was so much fun. It was you were so excited. And I was like, yeah, I was. Like, I can't help it. But like I get really physical and demonstrate. Like if I'm talking about what a dancer does, I'll just do it. I'll leap across the room to demonstrate the purposes.
Literally.
I think some people quite like that energy, probably annoys some people as well, in fairness, I don't know. But it came across well. And we, particularly, there's a bit that I teach about intrinsic foot muscle exercises. And that is something that, to my knowledge, Lizzie didn't cover when she taught this course by herself. I don't think she can correct me if I'm wrong about that. Or if she did, it was much smaller section than what I did. But that bit people seem to love. So whenever I talk about foot intrinsics, people are like, oh, I hadn't really ever even considered, you know, exercising the foot. Some people sort of know about like foot doming, or it's called short foot, or maybe like the first metatarsal flexion exercise, something, but not much, and often not just how much it can be used in different pathologies and different clinical conditions. So I've obviously, to try and promote how much I use it, I've done a lot of reading around it to sort of demonstrate just how many different conditions it can really help. And I've told Lizzie about it. She's now started using it with her patients, and she's like, God, I can't believe I didn't used to do that, you know. And that would be with patients with like posterior tibialis tendon dysfunction. If anyone knows what that is, PTTD, that's one that she sees a lot of, and she'd never consider foot strength in it. And now she does it with every single patient that has it, because it's really complementary. Or plantar fasciitis, that's another one, plantar heel pain, whatever you want to call it. And for dancers, it's one of the things they've been doing for years in dance, because we've always known how important foot strength is in dance. But that's where my dance knowledge, I think, translates nicely to other sports, because you wouldn't normally think of foot strength for a runner. But actually, for a sprinter, if you can get their first ray, their first toe flexion, strength and power stronger, it enhances their push off, it enhances their lower limb rebounds and all that stuff. So it really crosses over. And I think for the right patients, it can be really, really useful. And that's something that I notice people kind of going, God, I'd never thought about the foot intrinsics, but they seem to love it. And when I do the practical, which is getting them to do all the footwork, it's hilarious. Like, they were falling off their chairs trying to contort their feet. And there was a really lovely atmosphere. It kind of felt like it was something a bit fresh that they hadn't really thought about. So that was nice, very satisfying.
I was going to say, and you've answered it actually, like, did you discover from putting the course on that there is a bit of a void in the information, that you did have stuff which people didn't know about or hadn't entertained the idea of? And from what you said, there was a few surprises there, even between each other, you know, which is so exciting to hear as well.
Yeah, well, Lizzie's taught me loads of stuff, and I've taught her stuff. It's been really nice that she taught me a new way to do just an anterior draw test, but it's changed my life.
Oh, wow, testimonial.
Because I see so many acute ankle sprains, you know, and I'd always done it and it was fine, but the way she taught me is so much quicker and easier and more sensitive, that I'm like, an ankle sprain comes in and I'm like, right, brilliant, let's get this anterior draw test. It's a different way of holding the ankle. You sit them off the couch rather than with their feet on the couch, so their feet naturally fall into a bit of plantar flexion.
Okay.
And then you just kind of very gently hold the back of the ankle, and it's a really gentle move, whereas I used to use quite a lot of force. I don't think my technique was ever particularly good in it, if I'm honest. I could definitely tell if someone had a sprained ATFL, but now I can tell much more easily. I can grade it better, and the test is quicker and easier. And Lizzie taught me that. So, you know, and I talk about intrinsics and lots of different things to do with dance. And she's a wealth of knowledge. She's an ESP that, you know, has worked for many, many years and knows a lot. She's very clever too. So she's a good person to work with.
Sounds amazing. And that takes us over to questions that are coming in now. So Catherine Reimer has, I'll bring this on the screen, which is what we can do if you join us live. Catherine Reimer, hey, Catherine, how are you doing? She said, I saw this post the other day. Airedale isn't far from me. Who is the course aimed at?
Yeah, so that course was, we were asked to do it by Airedale. They were the people that approached me. So it was like the head of the MSK department. They were looking at CPD, and then I think they were talking about it, because there's not that many foot and ankle courses out there. And at the time I didn't have a course, but I do talk about foot and ankle a lot. And someone had said, well, if you ask Liz, she might be able to put something together for you, which is exactly what happened. So we literally put the course together for Airedale, but now it's ready to go. So we will be aiming it at various. So we've had lots of people offer to host it. There's there's a clinic in Essex that want to host it. There's a clinic on the South Coast that wants to host it. There's a hospital in London that Lizzie works for that we can host it there. So it would be aimed at whoever wants to learn more about foot and ankles. So the level we went in at was very much aimed at physios. I have to say, I think if you've done only a diploma in sports therapy, I think you might find it a bit challenging. just because of a lot of the terminology we use and the tests that we assume those kinds of things. But that's something that we can tweak. So like if we were to do it for, say, sports therapists, we might tweak it a little bit and make it, for example, we wouldn't include as much stuff about, I'm just trying to think now. I don't know if we would take things out, but we might just slightly change the way we did it, because we're not going to assume that people know certain tests. But even then, like, there were, in the course, there were really experienced MSK physios that said, you've taught me loads. These are band 7s and 8s. So what was lovely was we were like, oh God, you assume that people know these things, but actually when you do it all the time, because more than 50% of my caseload is foot and ankle, I've been working it out at least 50%, if not a bit more. So I see the stuff all the time, and I've read up on it because of that. I literally kept seeing feet and I was thinking, oh Jesus, what is it? I didn't know anything about the forefoot, and I wasn't great with midfoot at all. I knew about ankle sprains, but I think that's what most physios, and I'm going to just say most people that work with athletes do know about the basics. But what we do is go into much more detail about what the differentials can be, particularly for lateral ankle sprains. We talk about rehab, lots of tendinopathy stuff. So it can be, at the moment, the course will change depending on who we're delivering it to. So we haven't got any more booked in yet, but we've got lots of people that sort of want us to. So if it was a private clinic as opposed to an NHS clinic, we might slightly tweak a few different things as well. But people keep asking me now about the dates, so I'm just sort of saying, well, nothing's booked, but we just need to get some things in. But if you're interested in it, or especially if you know people that might be interested in it, can you let us know, and we'll try and put a date together somewhere that's local enough for people that we can, however many, I'm not sure even about numbers, how many we need to run it. It's that new, do you know what I mean? So, but we can tweak it depending on who the attendees are.
So watch this space. For many, many reasons, you should be following Liz already on Twitter. So Liz Bayley, B-A-Y, Lee, Physio on Twitter. And then, watch that space for information. And please, a message going out to sports therapists out there who realize that a lot of your patients who have been to see physios have been let down because all they've been given is a photocopy from 1980 with stretchers on it, and you know a lot more. Go and show Liz that actually some sports therapists know more than the physios. And that's why we get customers, because we can give them an hour of help with far more empathy. We've got more hands-on ability to listen. We're better at using these, rather than 20 minutes in an office where it's like, oh, to have this bit of paper, do some strength, you can't go on getting stronger by. So go and show Liz what you've got, people, because I think there was a little bit of a challenge there from what she said. Go and show her that you've been doing go and show her you've been doing musical toes and things, and getting and testing the big toe for the amount of windlass mechanism and all that sort of stuff. Go and show them that you know about it, and that 8-band MSK physio who's been looking after old ladies who've never run in their lives doesn't know about it. Bit of a challenge there, people. Sign up. Anyway, back to the show. I had to stand up there for sports therapists there, because you kind of just brushed them all away saying, I think the level is physio, to tell you the truth. But that's fine.
Did I say that? I didn't.
Yeah, we'll play it back. It's okay.
I didn't mean that. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm just telling you a little bit.
Because I did a diploma in sports therapy, not the degree. So I don't know.
And you did a pretty shitty diploma, because I did the same one. So
same one, I know. Yeah. But I'm just saying, we certainly didn't do anything.
No, it was awful.
Test, we did just sort of some active and passive movements.
Oh, it was
what
awful.
I know. I'm not.
But this is going back to like what, 2000 and when did you do that one? 2009. A lot has changed in 13 years now. There are still, that diploma is still going out there as far as I know. But yeah, there's a lot better information out there now, and you've got stuff being taught to sports therapists, not even at diploma level, with all the other mechanisms, and now the biopsychosocial's got in there. And it's still true, if your sports therapist has done a degree, you're allowed to diagnose, and it's true that if you're not a graduate, you're not supposed to use that word. But things are getting pretty cool. I think you might be surprised now, but it's interesting if you do a course, maybe to set some reading or something, say, look, so you don't turn up and feel like this is too high level, just give some ideas of what people need to know, some readabouts or something. Because these people see sports people all the time, every day, in and out. They're not seeing any other cases. They're just seeing athletes. So it'd be interesting to see. I think your course would have loads for these people to lap up, especially the crew who join us live. The Beckys and the Catherines be amazing. Be really good. When do you think it's going to start then? Did you say March, did you, or something? Is that literally where you, really nothing till then? Yeah.
Because nothing really happens over Christmas with courses.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't got anything booked in now, so it's just not going to happen. But as of next year, we're going to aim to teach it at least 4 times next year.
Very exciting.
We'll see.
Nikki Mansfield says, I love the energy with which Liz talks about feet. So enthusiastic. I identify. Definitely.
Yay! That's great, Nikki. I know there's nothing wrong with a bit of excitability. I'm always described as excited and enthusiastic. I can't help it. I love physio, and I loved sports therapy when I did it. I just love working with the body, and I love MSK. Get really passionate about it.
Let's have a little look. No, not that yet. I'm going to that. I'm interested about the course. So you've already mentioned it a little bit, like the intrinsic muscles, doing exercises. I love the way you talk about doing something that's fun, getting people to experiment with their feet, and like always makes me think of like musical toes, seeing if they can do a little pattern or Beethoven, something like just playing around with all those little games to make them start using that. You mentioned that was quite surprising for some of the people on your course. What are some other ones where you feel like you've dropped something where the room's gone, oh, I like that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think I'm trying to think now. Well, this goes into the conversation.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, bring it up.
So if anyone's not on Twitter, they won't know what we're talking about. But
that's fine. Bring it up. I think it's good. It's educating. Yeah.
The other thing that actually was really useful, and lots of people were like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that, or it kind of, you're talking to people and these are MSK physios, so they do this all the time. They give calf raises out all the time. Okay, so one of the sections in my functional, so one of the part after lunch, we basically did functional assessment and then rehab. So it started with feet and intrinsics, and then it went up the chain, ankle, calf, and then to like end stage assessment and rehabilitation. It's a full 2-hour section, that bit that I do by Lizzie's there, but I kind of lead it. And I wanted to come up with a load of things, because it's fine to say you can do a calf raise for various different foot and ankle pathologies, probably all of them, to be fair. But especially the more I learn about it, is that there's certain things you can tweak about a calf raise which make them better for certain pathologies or certain patients. And I wanted to come up with, well, not just come up with, but just demonstrate all the different types of calf raises that I use, because there are loads of different types. And this slide, I don't know if people can see it, was one of them. Now, this slide has literally got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of calf raises on it. We talk about 12 different types of calf raises on the course. So everyone was going mad, because they were like, there's so much variety, it makes it really complicated. And I was like, God, don't come to the course then, because we talked about 12 different types of calf exercises. And there's loads more, hundreds of different ways that you can do it, not just calf raises. So we were talking about things like skipping, stair climbing, leg presses, and other various bits and pieces that you can do to get the calf engaged. So that was something, like, for example, one that a few people hadn't considered was using external or internal rotation for calf raises to target certain parts of either the gastroc. So if you rotate outwards, which is more like what you would associate with dancers, that will target the medial gastroc more. And if you rotate inwards, it will target the lateral gastroc. And if you go parallel, it basically gets both. Okay. So this was one thing I put up. I think probably some people have seen that before, but quite a few people hadn't, and they'd never even considered taking a person out of parallel, So for me, like with dancers who often work in external rotation, getting them to do calf raises in parallel is really useful, because it challenges the way that their muscles are used to working. Mm-hmm. So that was a really simple thing. I don't think it's groundbreaking. I'm not the one to come up with it, but it's just one variation that people found interesting, and it got people talking about. But just like I said, there were a lot more exercises than what I've put on this slide, but as something to put on Twitter, because I had so much information, I thought I'll put something on Twitter because I've done all this work. So I put this slide up and said, there you go, there's some variations. What are your favorite go-to exercises? And it kind of 4 days went by, and it got lots of likes and comments that were really popular, and then it just died. And then out of nowhere, this kind of world war started, where various people got involved, because if you look at the top corner, it says about the seated calf raise. Now, I wrote, and you can see it down there, seated for Soleus. And as I wrote those words, I thought to myself, this is a debated area. Recently, people have been talking about how actually seated doesn't necessarily need to be done to target. This is the key thing. It's not that it doesn't target Soleus, it's that you don't need to do it to target Soleus, because Soleus will work if you do it with a straight knee and a bent knee. So this is the key point. But if you want to target only Soleus, seated is the way to go, right? And the reference that I put on there was like a paper by Seth O'Neill, which quotes exactly that. And when I read that word, I thought, right, I can say seated for Soleus because Seth says it 3 years ago. So I know that this argument's kind of come around in the last 3 to 4 years. So that was kind of when it was changing. But I put it on the slide because I thought I wanted to somehow differentiate why you do a seated calf raise. And we'll just point out that that's you in the picture as well, shall we, Matt?
A very sexy, tanned, legged beast in there, yeah.
That's Matt's picture that I stole off the internet, and he discovered it, and I was like, yes, that is you. So that's Matt in the picture with the seated calf raise. Interestingly as well, someone else challenged me and said, if you want to load up the seated calf raise enough, you're going to need more than a ball.
I went into the YouTube videos and just put it all in capital letters. I put it in the videos notes that the ball's just there to show you need resistance, but you should use resistance that causes fatigue.
I just find it so
what Twitter's like.
Patronizing comments you get on Twitter.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? I didn't bother replying to that woman. I did look it up after you said it to me because I'm as geeky as you, and I was like, who dared to question my exercise? And she quoted that wonderful thing of, did you know that a healthy individual needs 1.5 times their body weight to make it? And I think, have you ever tried sitting someone down on a step and putting 1.5 times their body weight on their knee? Because that's a great example of quoting something they've heard. It takes 1.5 times the body weight to fatigue the Soleus. Really? Have you seen someone actually, like I'm weigh 100 kilos. Am I going to put 150 kilos on my leg in a gym?
Yeah.
No,
well, if you've got a seated calf raise machine, you can. Yeah,
I know, but I'm still not going to lift 150 kilos.
No, probably not. But you know,
8 plates.
I had a dancer doing this who had Achilles tendinopathy recently. She didn't have a seated calf raise machine in her gym, so the most she could carry in her upper body, it was probably 25 kilos in a big plate. So we were using 25 kilos. I can't get it. I'm like, carry 85 kilos across the room, put that on your leg. You know, it's just not realistic.
It's not practical, yeah.
But then some people would say, then don't load it in that position with weight. If you need it heavy, then go to something where they can support it, put them in a Smith machine or whatever it is. And I agree with that completely. But I was trying to, I didn't want to overcomplicate it, and I didn't want to give her just one calf exercise. So also she was highly irritable with full body weight in a single leg calf raise. So we ended up doing isometrics with that plate in her leg. This was just very early stages.
Very cool. Yeah.
But the key thing is the clinical reasoning behind it. I don't just give everyone a seated calf raise with like a 6 kilo dumbbell on their knee. You know, I'll change it depending on what the person needs. Like if they've got a paratendinitis, which is different from Achilles tendinopathy, so that's inflammation of the paratendon or paratenon, as you say, paratendon around the Achilles tendon, then you want to load it heavy but make it isometric because they won't be able to tolerate movement through range if they've got some kind of, I'm going to say it, sheath irritation. It's not really a sheath, but we know what I'm talking about. Or I'm just trying to think, someone else. So if they haven't got a seated calf raise machine, you might want to get them doing their body weight with a bent knee. Then but it's better than sitting them down with like I said, a 6 or an 8 kilo dumbbell on their knee. That's just, it's not high enough load. It's not going to really create the changes you need. But if you can reason it and make it targeted for the patient you've got and the equipment they've got, that my first question to all patients is, right, do you have access to a gym? If they don't, you've got to completely rethink it, because how are you going to get a decent amount of weight into their repertoire unless you go and buy a bag of cement, like I think you suggested?
I did. I'll tell you the truth, if when I get patients like that, I'm saying, you know what, get a month's gym membership out. I know you hate the gym, I know you worry about going in there, but if you want to get this done quicker, join a gym for a month. You'll have all the weights you need. You can progress it up and down the rack and then leave the gym. It's fine. But for now, you're going to need some weight. And some people go, some people it's a bit too much. Yeah.
Then there's ways to do it if they haven't. But when I ask a dancer if they go to the gym, more often than not now they do, which is just shows a shift in culture with dancers particularly. But it's fantastic because you've got everything you need there, and you need them to load it heavy, and they can. So great.
It's a great discussion, and I'm glad you talked about that, because it shows probably the kind of discussions which are going on a course like yours, which you are kind of like putting out there to people, and people can talk to each other and challenge things, and that's a great way of learning. So it is an interesting debate. It wasn't there, but it just showed the limitations of Twitter as well, with people getting kind of like misinterpreting it and things when you've only got words, you've only got a choice of like one font and either capitals or not. It's very, very limited. But yeah,
the other thing is that none of the other calf raises have got weight on them, have they? That's body weight on every single one of those. No one's saying anything about that.
No. It's the seated one. It's the flavor of the month. It's the It's the Kardashian of calf exercises. It's just what everyone's talking about. So yeah, but it's healthy. It's good. And I think everyone involved kind of like learned a few things, whether they jumped in too quickly or maybe they didn't say anything they thought they should have done. But it was good. It was a healthy debate. I like your Twitter feed. It's good.
Yeah, I learned a lot from it too. I said I'd love to, if I had time, here we go, me giving myself jobs, I'd love to write a blog with all of that information in it, because actually it would help my understand. I feel like I understand it pretty well, but actually there was lots of stuff there that I hadn't considered or thought of. So it's a really interesting thread if anyone fancies reading it. But as usual, it was a bit challenging in places, but I learned loads from it.
I asked on there, because one thing I still don't understand is the studies that were quoted talk about EMG activity. But then when somebody is slagging off a paper and say, but it's just using EMG, which isn't an accurate representation of force production. But in this case, they were saying, oh, yes, but it shows that the Soleus's EMG activity stays the same in both. I'm like, well, hold on. Aren't you? And I think it was my limitation. I'm not sure if it was surface EMG or a different type of EMG, but I didn't get feedback on that. I'm still having to investigate, because I didn't think EMG activity was an accurate way necessarily of measuring the force production of a muscle. We've seen in other things, people have cursed clams, for example, because it shows that the EMG activity and this and that. But I don't know. It's all but again, it was educating for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move past that because it's getting to 8:50. What else on the course? So what do you think is another area where people might get education on your course with related to foot and ankle? What's an area where you educate and you find that people are going to take something home which is going to be useful for their patients?
I think one of my favorite bits to research was the lateral ankle pain section.
Mm-hmm.
So because everyone sees ankle sprains pretty much, right? It makes up a huge proportion of my daily patient intake. I see a few every week, but it's all the little minute things that you get from the subjective history, from the mechanism of injury, and from your objective tests that just change whether or not you would say it's just a bog standard lateral ankle sprain or not, and all the different differential diagnoses that it could be. And it's just incredible how many different things it could be when most people would think it's an ankle sprain. So me and Lizzie are thinking about making a t-shirt. You know, the rage now is to make t-shirts about your various slogans and things like that. But we were going to get a t-shirt that said, it's never just a sprain, or something like that.
Okay.
Because it is often a sprain. I think it's 85% of ankle injuries are lateral ankle sprains.
Okay.
In the research that I know about. It's the highest injury in dancers, definitely. It's the highest in sporting activities, the most common injury. But often there's these little nuances of like when actually it's a bit more than an ankle sprain. Like if you get osteochondral bruising or defects over the talar dome, and that would be something that's a much higher energy injury. So like, for example, if someone's fallen off a roof or something and landed really heavily and they roll their ankle, so they sprain their ankle, but they often will have some kind of talar dome injury from the impact. And that's very often missed. Number one, because it's not in the Ottawa ankle rules. There's no palpation of the talus in the Ottawa ankle rules. So it's either the posterior borders of both malleoli, and then it's the base of the fifth metatarsal and the navicular tuberosity. Talus doesn't even come into it. So very often the Ottawa ankle rules are negative, but actually there's a talus fracture there. The one thing that will pick it up though, of course, is that you've got to be able to walk 4 steps weight bearing for the Ottawa ankle rules. So usually if there's some kind of bigger injury like that, the person won't be able to weight bear and it will be picked up. But in those cases when they can walk, they are then potentially missed. So it's just knowing to ask about, like with the mechanism of injury, like I said, trying to find out if it's a really high velocity one, the position that the foot was in. So was it a plantar flexion inversion injury, or was it a fixed dorsiflexion with eversion injury? And anyone who knows about this will know what I'm going to say. So that could potentially be more of a syndesmosis or a high ankle sprain, which are often missed because actually they're not that painful and they don't really swell. And people can walk on them. They usually can't hop. I don't ever really get an acute ankle to try and hop, so I don't know why that's in there, but it'd be a bit mean, wouldn't it? But there's a cluster of tests that you can do to check that. And one is palpation of the syndesmosis, which is the most sensitive test. One is the squeeze test, where you work proximal to distal, squeezing the fibula and the tibia together to see if that gaps the distal joint, distal tibiofibular joint, and then that would give pain if that was sprained. And the last one is the Kliger's test. So that would be forcing the foot into dorsiflexion, then external rotation to try and actually replicate the mechanism of injury. So if there's a sprain at that part of the joint at the bottom of the leg, then that will be really painful for the person, because that won't be the mortise joint won't be intact. And that cluster of tests is very useful to rule that one out. The squeeze test is the most specific. So if that's positive, it almost certainly is a syndesmosis, and the palpation test is the most sensitive. So if you palpate the syndesmosis and it's not painful, it's almost certainly not a syndesmosis sprain. And knowing that is so useful. Interestingly, I was in a theatre, there was a show on, I was called to see someone who had sprained their ankle on stage, and I thought it was a syndesmosis. So the mechanism of injury was exactly what you would expect. They landed on a fixed foot and it fell into external rotation because they got it caught on a piece of, on their shoe. Their shoe came off and they landed on the edge of the shoe. And the syndesmosis was positive. All those tests were positive. And I was secretly really excited, thinking, yay, I've got a syndesmosis sprain. I saw the person, this is the key thing, I saw the person 10 minutes after it had happened. And the story behind this is that you need to wait 48 hours to 5 days after something like that to really get a true recognition of what is lax and what isn't, and what the ankle sprain is, because he was so acute. It wouldn't have mattered what I did to him, would have been positive. Do you know what I mean? So, and I kind of forgot that, but because the mechanism fit and it was just so perfectly matched what I was expecting, I was sure it was a syndesmosis. We got an MRI, because that's what you do in those situations, and all he had done was sprained his CFL. So he'd had a grade 2 lateral ankle sprain, which I also was positive. I could tell that from the Taylor tilt test. You've got your anterior draw for your ATFL, and you've got your Taylor tilt for your CFL, which is a subtalar test, and that was positive as well. So the MRI picked that up, but the syndesmosis was fine. So I was kind of very pleased for him, obviously, because he's going to be back. He would have been, but yeah, it was a lesson. I sort of forgot that you need to wait a bit to really see if those tests are false positives or not, because I got false positives.
This is really tricky for you, isn't it? It always fascinates me about when you are working with live performances, because something for you is, can they go back on? Has the show got to stop, or can they even go to tomorrow night's show? And that's really tricky, isn't it? Because you haven't got 48 hours to 5 days to decide what they've done to themselves. You've just got to see.
Yeah, well,
how do you make that call?
If they can't wait there, it's done.
Yeah.
To figure out my thing now, because you are called to injuries and they want to know, can they keep going, is if they can't walk absolutely fine with no pain, there's no way they can perform. So I basically just say to them, walk over there. It's kind of, you don't need to get too detailed with it. You just need to figure out, if they can't do basic daily activities without pain, there's no way they can perform.
So but how much you get involved with things like strapping and placing it so that, and if they can walk without pain with that strapping on, then they'll go back on stage.
Yeah, I've had people that, it's funny too, because we now talk about like even a mild sprain, so a grade 1, so that's actually not even a lax joint. So a grade 1 would be a sprain of the ankle without laxity. So you don't have a positive anterior draw, and you definitely don't have a positive Taylor tilt. Even those injuries can take 2 to 3 weeks to really heal. And then this is where me and Lizzie have this thing about making the t-shirt about it's never just a sprain, because actually we underestimate how bad those kinds of injuries can be. But I have to admit, when I've got a performer, I'll talk to them if it's a mild sprain and they can walk, and if I strap them up and they feel pretty good, and it's a joint decision. So I have to tell them what it is. We know that there's a higher risk of potentially chronic ankle instability if it's not rested and rehabbed correctly. But often, because the general population kind of thinks of ankle sprains as just a bog standard injury that people get, they often will want to go back on. So as long as I give them a bit of information, I wouldn't put them on unless I felt it was safe. They need to be not lax and not be too severe. But I've had people where they do have laxity, and I've said, no, you can't do it because you've got to go and jump on stage, and there's produce that power, it wouldn't be safe. So I've taken them off.
Yeah.
It just depends.
And you get that call if you say you're not going on, they're not going on.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
They listen to me. Yeah, there's the odd time this has happened over the whole course of my 12 years of doing this in the West End, where I've said they probably shouldn't go on, and then the producer or the director will come and speak to you and go, can they? Because actually you're in a bit of a spot. That's happened a couple of times. But if I really did say no because it would be detrimental to their health, definitely they wouldn't do it. They do put the performers first, but they do always ask. They're like, are you sure they can't? What we'll do though is modify a track. So this happened at a show a couple of years ago, principal role of something. The role was very jumpy. They sprained their ankle when did they do it? The rehearsal for it or something, and they were meant to go on that night. And I said to the company office, they can't do that. And then the assistant choreographer said, what if we take the jumps out? So what they did was they changed the whole show and took all the jumps out. I strapped it up really, really carefully, and then they went on. So it was like a team effort, I guess.
Yeah, no, fascinating. That's great. Wonderful. So interesting. We could go on forever, but it's like 9:01 now. Right. So yeah, we've said that. I mean, after exciting people about all this education and things which they could learn, it's not going to happen yet. But it's just keep an eye on. I think your Twitter handle is probably the best place. Watch this space, isn't it? But hopefully from March onwards, because it's going to be such a popular course, I think. The things you've mentioned are things which we talk about this a lot on the show. We live in our bubble, our little bubble, Twitter bubble, where we think everyone knows about this and intrinsic muscles and working this and all the little things we've talked about. But go to the external population who maybe aren't following the same people as we are, and it's all new, isn't it? Yeah. And therefore you are changing literally a lot of patients and people's lives by educating these people. So
there's loads of physios, even before I did the course, that when I used to talk about foot and ankle all the time, where they message me privately and they say, look, I literally forget that people even have feet. You know, they just don't see them. Yeah. They don't see them as part of their patient cohort, or they kind of will avoid seeing them or something, and they just decide they don't like them. But like I said, way more than 50% of my caseload is foot and ankle. And I love it now. It's like anything, when you get confident with something, the better you know it. Even if it's a really complex one, I kind of think, no, I've got the knowledge to figure this out, and I make sure that I do. I had a fascinating one a couple of weeks ago. I might tweet about it, about 6 to 7 different pathologies in one foot. Absolutely incredible. It was like a case study that someone had presented to me to say, work that one out. And it was really interesting. Really, really good case. I might tweet about that one. Really good case study. I asked the patient if I could, and they said that was fine with them.
Cliffhanger. And there's a reason to start following Liz. That's going to be happening probably later tonight.
Can I just say, I feel slightly mortified that I might have offended anyone or said that.
No, this lot are used to physios coming on and saying that it's at physio level, as if there's such a thing as physio level.
I'm talking about just... oh dear. I think myself.
Don't worry. Don't worry, you're a physio, so yeah.
I would love to know if anyone wants to do anything on the foot and ankle or is interested in our course, and you're a sports therapist, whether that's like diploma level or graduate. I would love to know what you want to know about. So I did a tweet about this 4 or 5 months ago when we were writing this course to ask the physios and anyone else who followed me, what do you want to know about with foot and ankle? Because I know what I know, but I tend to see more feet than most people do. So if anyone, literally, me and Lizzie will adapt the course and change it for what people need. And I'd love to know if there's anything that people don't know about that they would love us to include. And chances are it might be in there anyway, but it might not be. So, so that's what I was just going to say.
How should they get in contact with you? What's the best way if people want to email you? Is it email or?
Email's good. So my email is lizbayleyphysio@gmail.com. So that's good.
Okay,
or you can contact me on Twitter or via my website. So lizbayleyphysio.com. That's got a contact form on it, which sends me an email. But I would love to know if there's things that people would want to know about. If they did a foot and ankle course, what would they want it to include? I'd be really interested to hear.
That's great. We'll make sure you get some feedback on that. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, we'll make sure that goes into the show notes and ways of contacting Liz. And yeah, let the Liz's know what you'd like if you do go onto this course. What a great offer. Fantastic. We'll make sure that all goes in the show notes. Right, look, it's 9:03. I know you're shattered, and I know that I've grilled you a little bit tonight. Don't feel bad about the physio thing. We get it all the time.
Oh,
it's physio level. It's
God's
physio
sake.
level.
Oh God, just forget it.
I'm going to tweet about that later on. Who else is at physio level? All the physios at the same level. They all got the same skills. Interesting concept.
No, not at all.
We'll tweet that later on. But anyway, so let's just put a few thank yous up here. Thank you, people, first of all, for joining us. It's great. I love this live thing. I always say I wouldn't do it unless it was live. I like reactions. I like it. So Gary Benson, founder of the STA, has been here tonight. Says, thanks as always, Liz and Matt. Looking forward to catching up at Therapy Expo. It's true. Thanks for reminding me. If you've enjoyed, which I'm sure you have enjoyed, what Liz has had to say, then there's a few times where you can catch Liz. Let me just put this up full. As far as the STA Theatre goes, then Liz will be joining us on the Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning with the Dancer's Foot. Half an hour of face-to-face listening to Liz and then inviting you to questions afterwards. That'll be in the STA Theatre, which will be opposite, same as last year. There's a few other kind of like internal theatres going on this year, but don't forget the STA Theatre is the one to go to. It's the original one. So that'll be happening at 10 o'clock. And then also, when else are you on, Liz?
Oh, I'm on in the afternoon. I forget what time. I think it's like at 1:50. It's at a really random time. And it's all about physiotherapy and the performing arts. So that's
fantastic.
But that one, the Dancer's Foot, really, there's a few bits about specifically dancer stuff, but it's very much any foot injuries, you know, like anyone could watch that and get something from it. So please don't be put off by the fact that it says dancers. I'm always tempted to kind of just say the foot or the sporting foot or something.
It's tricky, isn't it? It is tricky.
But it's very much, there's a few bits and pieces that are about dance, but very, very general. So everyone will get something from that. If you're interested in feet and ankles at all, it's useful.
That's great.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And thank you for doing that. That'd be great. So yeah, that's it, people. Next week, actually, I think I've got a mate of Liz's on next week. Next week, we're gonna have Bill Taylor. Talking of working with dancers. Hey, Physio Bill.
Yeah.
Bill Taylor's going to be here. He's been on the show before, at least once or twice. Bill Taylor is going to be talking at Therapy Expo in the STA Theatre as well. When's that? I think that's on the Wednesday at 1:45. He's going to be doing male pelvic health red flags, which was a very popular episode here. So it'll be for any soft tissue therapist who, like we said in the episode before with Physio Bill, with Bill, so many people come to us in pain and discomfort, and the first thing often they're going to go for is, I have a nice back massage, or massage my groin, please, or my thighs. I just feel like I need to lie down and get away from it all. They're probably quite stressed out. And if you recognize and ask the right questions, especially with pelvic health issues, then you could direct that person to the ideal professional who could change their lives without getting too heavy or deep. So many of the things we talked about, whether it's rheumatology or pelvic health, or endometriosis or hypermobility, don't get diagnosed for up to 10 years because they don't get sent to the right person. And I've always championed you guys because the most common therapy which people typically go for when they are suffering from pain is going to be a massage of some form. Because they know they can get away for an hour at a decent price and just relax, and they know they're going to feel better for it. So yeah, really important. And I'm sure I'll be quizzing Bill on that next week about some of the information he's going to give, but how to ask the right questions, how to get over some of the taboos and things like that. So that'll all be next week. So you can join us if you fancy joining us live for that. Then it will be 8 o'clock again on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. If you do just want to wait for the podcast, and that's great, but do me a favor, given that it's free, if you enjoy what we do, just leave a nice rating for us. That'd be great. 4 or 5, that'd be perfect. And maybe a little comment, because all it does is it helps our guests and their good word reach a higher audience. It just pushes you higher up in Google. If you give somebody a review, especially on Google Podcasts, which for iPhone users is easy to do. You just go to the app on your phone and leave a rating. We're getting like nearly 3,000 downloads now an episode. So, I mean, and I've still only got about 30 or 40 reviews on there. So either you're being lame or you don't know how to work your iPhones. But I know there's a lot more of you who are listening to the podcast. So please, without any pressure, but please, if you've enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed what Liz says, then leave a rating and help other people get to know the Bayley with a Y. Okay? Do that now before you make a cup of tea or whatever else you got to do in the day. Right. Thanks again, Liz. So much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hope I didn't grill you too much. Don't go away, because I'm going to say goodbye to you when I sign out here, just for 2 minutes. So thank you to you. But yeah, people in the live lounge, thanks for joining us again. We'll hopefully see some of you next week. Hope you're getting your tickets to Therapy Expo. Don't forget, if you're looking for a discount, the STA discount is still there, even though the early bird ticket is gone. Contact the STA or contact your regional rep, and you will get a code which will make it much more accessible for you. And I'm really looking forward, as it's getting closer now, to seeing some of you, or all of you, face to face at Therapy Expo in November. Right, that's it. Signing off. Take care. Look after each other, and we'll speak again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.